Food processing, is that going to be the answer? Where exactly are we going to plug the holes when it comes to rising food prices right now? The more expensive Indian thali. Let's discuss this threadbare. Vijay Sardana is the Food Security and Agribusinesses. He's a senior economist. He's joining us along with Professor Saket Kushwaha. He's the Vice Chancellor at the Rajiv Gandhi University and he's an agricultural economist. Great to have you both, gentlemen. And thank you for joining us on India Tonight on what is turning out to be an important subject to consider when you look at India's inflation story. And that's where, Mr. Kushwaha, I need to ask you to help us understand, in your capacity as an agricultural economist, clearly it's not just the vegetables, tomatoes, potatoes and onions, yes, but prices elsewhere, when you look at the ingredients of the Indian thali, are costing more today, whether it's the greens, the spices, the pulses, the oils. All of it seems to be becoming dearer. What are the reasons you see?
My greetings to all of you. Let me quickly tell the whole story goes like this. Most of the green vegetable we are talking about, they are perishable in nature. And when we said perishable in nature, that means quickly they could be affected seriously and very quickly because of the weather change. Now, this is the time where we have in some of the part of our country, we are going to we are still seeing the temperature going up to 50 to 53 degrees Celsius. That kind of temperature rise is going to create a problem for green vegetable. Now, because in some of the parts we are receiving serious rains, monsoon is on, you know it. So what is happening, because excess moisture also is going to create the problem for green vegetable. And then other thing is that, you know, in green vegetable, it is not only leafy vegetable we are talking about. We are talking about these all the cucumber and all those kind of vegetables. So, you know, flowers, when we get the rains, so this heavy drop rainfall is going to destroy the flower also. You know, reproduction of the crops is also affected. So these are the few issues. And then let me tell you, though I do agree with Honorable Minister that only lesser than 10%, I believe it is about 6%. Crop, I mean, various kind of vegetables are processed, but it is our habit. In India, actually, hardly we take processed food in form of like, we prefer going to market and then we get the fresh vegetable and then we accordingly, we process them.
This is quite high
we chop them,
in Indian kitchens.
So, yeah, in the kitchen. So, and then why it is happening like this? Because a lot of our sisters and mothers, they are still at home. And then very few of them are engaged in job kind of thing.
True.
So they feel that they could use their time optimally in the kitchen also. And by doing that one, they save some cost also, because when it comes to processing, that means about 20% of the even if it is potato, and if it is you are going to process the potato through machine, 20% crop will be wastage kind of thing, because
yes.
Machine is not going to take the tangent of the shape of the potato.
Yes.
So that means, yeah, so those kind of things are there.
No, absolutely. So let me take this across, Mr. Kushwaha, to Mr. Sardana as well. You know, sir, yeah. Mr. Sardana, where does India now currently stand when you look at the food security that India has right now, where it needs to be? Where do you see the gaps? Are we in enough of an Atmanirbhar position, according to you, where we can control our food prices from a simple demand-supply kind of situation?
First of all, good evening to fellow panelists and the viewers. Please ask PCR to change the designation. This is a wrong designation which they have mentioned.
I'll ask them to change it, sir.
Yeah. See, the issue which you are raising is very vital.
Yes.
Now, let me answer 2-3 with factual situations. When it comes to food security, the only thing in India we have is carbohydrate. That is wheat, rice, and maize and sugar. 70% of edible oil we are importing. Pulses we are importing. Import of fruits and vegetable is increasing faster than what we are exporting. So this clearly indicates that we are not food secure. In the name of food security, we only have wheat and rice. Be very clear. Second important issue is the animal products, whether it is a milk, dairy, and your report says prices are going up. There is an acute shortage of feed and fodder in this country. that we have to factor in 40 to 60% acute shortage is there. And that is why our animals are low productive, cost of production goes up, and that is why dairies, including cooperatives, have to increase the cost. And then third important issue we have to consider what Honorable Minister was mentioning. He was saying that we are not utilizing the processing industry properly. I am a dairy and food technologist. Let's be very clear. I am a dairy technologist, I am a food technologist, and I was running food industries for 20 years. In India, when consumers cannot afford fresh products, can they afford value-added processed products? One has to think seriously, number one. Number two, always processed food industry survives when you have a surplus raw material which is going to wastage. Preserving wastage into value addition through processing is the only way for survival of food processing industry. Here, when we are talking of processing industry, we are going to compete with already high price raw material, which consumers are not able to afford, and talking of food inflation. And then you are saying we will do value addition. Point is, masses cannot afford and they are suffering of food inflation, and you are talking of value addition further. Who will afford? Yes, you can do it, provided you have any crop which is surplus and going to wastage.
Right.
Preservation of wastage or protection of wastage, food processing is very vital.
Right.
But not when there is a shortage.
Right.
So one has to put the facts fundamentally clear.
Right. Mr. Kushwaha, do answer that for us. In your opinion, will food processing make food much more costlier than it is even today? How much of an impact do you think this is going to play out on our overall inflation story?
I think the fellow panelist was absolutely right. This is not the situation. I do agree with Honorable Minister that we are not processing too much. I mean, very moderate processing is done. But the thing is that that processing is only going to yield something once we have surplus production. In our country, you can see supply and demand. Nowadays, even the supply of these vegetables are scarce. So how we are going to achieve processing is not a cheaper stake. Processing is also a costly affair. And then you can see even in case of all these pasteurized milk and this thing. So raw material is not available. I feel that processing of certain items could be done, but then this is not the last resort. This is how I feel. Inflation is there.
Yes. No, the question is truly vital. What is the resort? Do tell us, in your opinion, Mr. Sardana, when you look at this problem, it hasn't gone away in a while. It seems like it's not just a seasonal problem anymore. Yes, we do talk about it a lot more when monsoons are deficient, but it's a very sustaining issue that we aren't able to address progressively. Tell us why you think that's the case and what we really need to do. What are our resorts right now when we are trying to amplify the need for food security in the country?
See, we have to go back to fundamentals. There is nothing rocket science here. In last 30 years, on an average, our productivity of most of the crop is stagnant. 30 years ago, China and India productivity was at par. Today, they are 2, 3 or 4 times higher than us. First thing which government of India should do is understand where the agriculture research money is going, why that money is not delivering the results. Every year we are spending 20,000 crore around state plus center in the name of agriculture research. Where that money is going, because farmers are not getting good quality seeds from the public sector units. Subsidized seeds are the seeds which farmers don't want to buy. That's why you are subsidizing. Good quality seeds, farmer is willing to pay full price. They don't need subsidy. So fundamental problem is we do not have good quality performing seeds. Even our wheat seeds are also 20, 30 years old varieties. So our research institutes are releasing large number of seed varieties, but these are not accepted or adopted by farmers. It means there is something fundamentally wrong the way we are doing our seed related researches. So one thing, Prime Minister and Agriculture Minister must focus on this. Otherwise, with every passing day, the population is increasing, water table is going down, soil health is depleting, climate change impact is visible. India will have acute problem of food security, and we will not be able to control food inflation because we are not able to feed humans. How we are going to feed the animals, livestock? They also need nutritious food or feed. So one has to be very, very fundamentally clear. We have to go back to the drawing board and start working. Number
So where
one.
are the leakages? Mr. Sardana, if I can ask you very pointedly, are you alluding towards corruption? And if there is, then is it institutional in nature?
The problem is lack of proper monitoring and objective assessment. There is a serious conflict of interest within the research system. The scientist who is doing the research is also evaluating his own research. So there is a conflict of interest that has to be done. What I'm saying is, I'm not talking of corruption, I'm talking of proper monitoring and accountability of the research system, which is missing in this country. And that is why our researches are lagging behind. Let me tell you one simple example. Around the world, pulses seeds have gone from India. They are giving 3 times more productivity. Our own seeds are 1/3 of the global average. Why this is so? Similarly, in case of oil seeds, similarly in case of horticulture crops and paddy, maize, you pick up anything. So what we are doing is, we are very happy when we see 2, 3, 4% growth in production. Actually, we need 20, 30, 40% growth in productivity. So we are happy with underperformance, and we are not making people accountable, those who are using taxpayers' money and not getting the result the way country needs.
Right.
So that is why Honorable Prime Minister and Agriculture Minister must create a war room and see that why research is not delivering and make things right. That is important.
Right. Mr. Kushwaha, do weigh in on the current situation that we have when it comes to food inflation. How do you think it's going to affect the RBI's decision now, at least? Because we need to push the growth story of India. The Prime Minister has said it himself. In fact, among the key agenda items was to kind of push for farmers' welfare. If that is going to happen, and if we are going to perhaps plug the holes, as it were, in the system where we are seeing these leakages, where exactly is the RBI going to position itself? Where you need to start cutting interest rates? How is that balance? What the kind of risk that food inflation poses to the Indian economy right now? How will the RBI try and bridge the gap, as it were?
Okay, but before I go to bring the answer for this one, let me tell you, a fellow panelist was absolutely right. Somehow it is a case of like a priority-wise. I mean, somehow misplaced priorities are there. So we have to make our scientists accountable for this kind of thing. This is one. Second thing is that our holding is too small. But then, having said so, when farmers, though they are holding, could be a number of marginal farmers is too high. But then if we set our priorities correct, and then the seed improvement program is yielding the right result at the right time, and extension activities are done correctly. That means sometimes our lead farmers, we don't contact them well in time. We don't provide this material in time. Sometimes raw material in form of chemical is also not made available to them, and that component of like chemical is getting expensive. I mean, so the thing is that there's a need for us to address this program, come back to the drawing board, and let us address this program squarely. Once again, let us revisit all the notes again, and then start doing the things. I'm not saying that go back to scratch.
Yes,
but
no, I absolutely get the point that both you and Mr. Sardana are making. But in the meantime, when the Indian economy is trying to grow at the fastest pace among the largest economies in the world, how much stress is food inflation going to place, and how do you think the RBI is going to tackle it? Mr. Sardana, let me ask you as well.
See, this is the biggest threat, let me tell you. for Indian economy, the food security of India and in food inflation is biggest threat. There are two ways to look at it. One is from interest rate or financial markets or stock markets point of view, that interest rates will go up. That is less of a concern. What is bigger concern is when the food prices goes up, the disposal income or surplus purchasing power, what we call in economic or market terms, will go down. If consumer is having suppose 10,000 rupees extra to spend on festival time, and because of food inflation that money reduces by 5,000, imagine that 50% spending of an average customer goes down. And what they are doing with surplus money, they buy the white goods, they buy all other things which are non-essential, because food, clothing and hygienic products are essential, they will not compromise. So where they will compromise? They will compromise on non-essential, which is actually your industrial sector, whether white goods, cars, scooters, whole lot of other items. That economy will suffer drastically, and remember that economy gives the maximum GST. They are on a higher bracket of 18%. So it is very, very important for us to understand that if you have to grow the economy, the average spending of consumer on food should not be more than 35 to 40% of their income. If food spending goes beyond that, your other industrial sectors will suffer, and it will also hurt economy badly. So that is why every country around the world is worried about food inflation, because that is what drives the economy. Interest rate is a minor factor.
All that articulated in the way the RBI governor has spoken to us at the ET Now Leadership Dialogues 2024, and this happened only yesterday, pointing out the importance of these moving pieces and food inflation being a key item, a key monitorable when you're looking at growth within the economy. Now, how much of that gets addressed in the budget that's going to be presented in the month of July by the finance minister, the kind of outlay that we have by way of the agricultural sector, how we're going to see the growth and that war room, whether we need that, and the importance of what is being arrived at by way of policies is going to be very closely watched. Mr. Kushwaha, Mr. Sardana, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on the food inflation story as it stands on India tonight. Thanks very much.